Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a new series that we are putting together. It is a caregiver education series of programs. It is for the Thrive program that we have here at the Chelmsford Public Library. It is an initiative that features programming designed specifically for members of our community who are living with memory loss, as well as for their family members, loved ones, and professional care team members. So today we are going to talk about holidays and memory loss, but we also have all of these programs that are going to be available on our YouTube channel and under a Thrive playlist. So we have a previous program that was on how the time change affects sundowning that we had last month. So you could check that out when you are looking at this after. But my co-creator of Thrive is Jeannine Madden, and I'm going to hand it off to her to start telling you about what we're doing today.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you so much. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today for our second Thrive Caregiver Education Program. And I really want to thank the Chelmsford Public Library for supporting this initiative. It's really kind of near and dear to my heart. So again, I'm Jeannine Madden, and I am joined today by Colleen Normandy, the program manager of the Chelmsford Adult Social Day program at the Chelmsford Senior Center right here in Chelmsford. Colleen is a licensed social worker with over 35 years experience working with seniors in various healthcare settings, and her focus is on incorporating movement throughout the day to promote and preserve well-being. She also shares the goal of ensuring that all of the seniors who come to the program feel valued and leave feeling a renewed sense of purpose. And that aligns perfectly with what we are going to be trying to achieve with this programming that we are offering. As Jill mentioned, it's really kind of an on-demand program, which means you can watch it whenever is convenient for you. And all of our subsequent programming, even if it's live, will be recorded for you to watch if you can't come out to a live event. These caregiver education programs will be recorded, and we'll be able to you'll be able to watch them at your leisure. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for and celebrate the upcoming holidays while you're caring for loved ones with memory loss and other forms of cognitive decline. And we're hoping that if you take away just even one suggestion or one recommendation, your holidays will be a bit less stressful and overwhelming, which they can be even because we place such a great deal of expectation on ourselves to make them perfect. And when you are now, if your life is changing by having somebody with memory loss living with you or visiting you, it really makes a difference. And Colleen, in her role at the Senior Center, is going to jump in and kind of help us get a better understanding from the perspective of the caregivers with whom she works at the Senior Center.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So preparation, like anything, preparation is key, right? Once we decide we're going to start to decorate our home, have a family dinner, have an open house, travel to visit friends and family, we really need to set aside some uninterrupted quiet time to plan for these events. And some people make a list, some people send themselves an email, regardless of how you choose to plan, and regardless of which holiday you're planning to celebrate. We have Thanksgiving coming up, we have all of the winter holidays coming up, we have New Year's. There's so many different celebrations, birthday celebrations, anniversary celebrations. Even though these are kind of about the holidays coming up, this really kind of applies for anything, any kind of celebration that's out of the ordinary routine for your loved one, particularly if they are living with you in your home. And no matter how much we plan, we always have to remember that things always don't go according to plan. And if you know that before you start, then you can really adjust your expectations to, and that's like the biggest piece of advice I have for the whole for the whole, I was going to say webinar, it kind of is a webinar, is if you can just adjust your own expectation on yourself, if you're the planner, then it really makes a big difference in the overall success of the program. Colleen, what do you think?
Totally. As someone who is sort of a type A, and, trying to meet the needs of all the clients on a daily basis here, as well as, keeping with my truths, such as my own parents in the community. It's just, you have to adjust and you have to be ready to adjust. And I'm a big person on contingency plans. Plan Bs is what I call them. If this doesn't work, I'm going to have this right in the pipe, ready to go. That in and of itself can be stressful when you think of all the, planning this and then having the plan Bs, and then what if this happens? So it is really important, and especially if you're caring for a loved one that has any kind of cognitive dementia, Alzheimer's, it's really important to ensure the best outcome is to make sure everybody is comfortable. You may have relatives that haven't seen forever, and they letting them know, like a little note maybe in advance, we're going to have 12 people. Aunt Judy is visiting, and FYI, she's had some changes this year. Please be mindful. Sometimes I find something like that can sort of set the tone. Folks will be somewhat prepared versus, oh, what do you mean you don't remember me? I was there last year.
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
that's that whole second piece, that educate your guests. Just a quick little email, a quick phone call, a text,
Yeah.
whatever it is, letting them know ahead of time. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that. I think connecting with your loved one and finding out and knowing from them what traditions are most important, what activities they feel most engaged in, that can really help you prioritize and plan appropriately. If they love listening to music, or they love playing the piano, or listening to family members play piano, be sure to incorporate those kinds of events, if they can happen, into your day, because it's such an emotional time of year, right? There's always going to be that sad feeling. There's change, there's loss, it's heightened at the holiday. And so acknowledging, we don't want to get into the habit of making it everything all kind of Pollyanna-ish, but at the same time, we want to acknowledge them and then move on to finding out new ways to celebrate. It's not going to always be the way that it was. And to be honest, it never is the way that it was. So we never can replicate those times. And so recognizing that and saying, okay, we have these things that are different this year. How can we incorporate them to make the celebration so that everybody, like you said, feels comfortable and that safe environment? So taking cues from your loved one. I was reading an article that talked about using a strengths-based, person-centered approach. This idea that what they like. If they like to roll out the gingerbread cookie dough, then let them roll it out, or let them cut them out, or whatever it is. Once the tendency is always for the host or the hostess or the people who are having the party to do it all themselves, but really engage your loved one with those tasks that that they enjoy and that they like doing. And so it's one less thing you have to do, and it's a way to get everybody involved. It's that know your audience, right? Consider the needs of your guests. Think like piñata versus wine tasting, right? You sort of know who's going to come, and you then can just kind of build on, okay, I know this person likes to talk about their meatball recipe or whatever it happens to be, but getting out of your own head about making everything so perfect from your own perspective and focusing on the people who are coming can sometimes make or break your level of stress in that holiday situation.
I was also going to suggest too, Jeannine, like if somebody is taking care of an elder and they are in the kitchen with you preparing the dough, or you might snap a couple of pictures of them doing that as a way to, oh yeah, see, this is Aunt Jean, and or Aunt Jean, she helped me roll this dough out,
So important.
yeah, and that it's a nice way if the person has that short-term memory loss to just say, no, no, Aunt Jean helped me with all of this. Check it out. Look at her, rolling this, as long as she's okay with it.
Right,
I
right.
think using pictures to sort of, you know, to to introduce a loved one that might have changed due to cognitive, and they might still enjoy seeing themselves in that role.
Yeah, it's like you were in my head as I was preparing, because I wrote down, I just said, encourage the people who are coming to focus on the person that they are with and engage them in conversations that they lead, let them talk and reminisce and record those conversations if possible. That idea of recording the sound of a loved one's voice and
Mhm.
video makes I can't even begin to say how important that is for that integrity of the celebration. It's
I
an
agree.
excellent recommendation.
Yep, I agree. I think that's again, you don't want to add to the planner's plate of, oh, that's now I got to get a camera or whatever, again, the phones, thankfully we have these wonderful phones and this
Right.
internet. And, if anything, going back to your first point about, being used to the fact that it's not the way it was. I mean, certainly we all learned those lessons throughout COVID, and certainly that was a game changer in terms of, holiday fun. I remember sitting outside yelling at my mother inside when I had brought her, her dinner. So again, I think one of the takeaways, of course, is that we have learned to change and to be able, most of us to sort of, shift gears, for lack of a better term. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that idea of reminding the people, your guests who are coming, that when they are particularly if your loved one has trouble with recall, like recalling names or faces, like, oh, I know your face, but I can't remember your name. And as that cognitive decline increases, that may become less and less, that ability to recognize. So just start off with introducing.
yeah,
You
good
know,
idea.
Right. Just introduce who you are. And you don't even need to say, do you remember me? One of the goals of this particular program is that we are going to move away from using that word, that phrase, do you remember? Don't you remember?
Right.
In the programming that we do live, it's one of the words that we just don't say, because we recognize it's a source of frustration, and it's a source of frustration for us to think that this person is losing that ability to recall. So avoid the embarrassment that we all seem to experience, even when we're out and about at an open house or a holiday function, somebody you haven't seen in a while. It's just so much easier to walk up and hold their hand and say your name
Yeah.
and introduce yourself. If they're seated, you should sit. So if they come up to you and you're seated and they're standing, you should stand. You really want to be at the same eye level the entire time, staying at staying. And if they sit, then you would sit. So keeping that eye contact and really, really focusing on keeping your thoughts with what this person is saying will make a huge difference when your mind isn't wandering off to whether or not the pie is burning in the oven.
Yeah.
Have a backup. So that leads me right into seek and accept help. People are always saying, how can I help you? What can I do? And we always say the same thing. Oh, I got it. Whenever I ask my mother, can I help you in the kitchen? She always says, oh, I'm okay. I got it. And now she'll say, you can load the dishwasher. And it's really nice because I recognize that she goes to a lot of trouble to make our family gatherings wonderfully. She's a wonderful chef and she decorates beautifully. And I recognize that there's a lot of effort that goes into that. So my biggest recommendation is seek and accept help. Can you help me keep an eye on the pie while I, go and chat with my guests? Can you help with setup? We actually have a whole section coming up with help. And then have a backup person who can kind of look after your loved one, watching for like wandering or boredom or overwhelm. Have a room or a place that's maybe not their bedroom. You don't really want them to go into their room, but you do. But just maybe a quiet place where it's calm for your loved one to go if they need to, and just
Chill.
chill. Exactly. Just
Yeah,
chill.
safe space, I think. And if I could elaborate on that, the safe space is important. And again, somebody with cognitive challenges, their brains are going to be working twice as hard to process all the information. So, they may shut down with the noise and the lights and all of that. And having, even working that out with them ahead of time, if they live with you, mom, if it's too much, I'm going to put this aside with your pretty robe and so that you can take, time outs if you need them in there. In our day program, sometimes we have a few folks that you could tell they're just overwhelmed. Sometimes we offer them headphones, the soft padded headphones, so they can still see what's going on, but they can filter out the noise. So
Absolutely. That
little things like that.
oversensory.
Yep.
Yeah. And that kind of leads right into that environment piece. Like you were saying, above all, the space needs to be safe.
Yep.
And welcoming, reducing clutter, removing those fragile items that might get knocked over or broken. Just do it ahead of time, right? Don't put out all of your, your Lennox ornaments on the tabletop or whatever it might be, like the beautiful menorah. You don't want it to be, you want it in a place that it's going to be out of the fray. One thing I read was like, say if you are celebrating Christmas and you're decorating your tree, ask your loved one, have your loved one put on the first ornament or put on the last ornament or something that's really like a very meaningful. Put the tree topper on, whatever that might be. And as you said, a photograph of that, a video of that. It's just an added little, maybe it's a new tradition that you do, but those little moments where you sort of make them the star of the show really, really go a long way to make everybody feel fulfilled and that joy that you're really trying to, light the last candle, light the first candle, light all the candles, however that might be. But involving them as much as you possibly can, and decorating with that care. So much of what I've read talks about that clutter, that idea that, every sitting place has 10 pillows and there are, every tabletop has something, some display on it or some, treasured something. Think half of what you normally decorate or less. It's not really that minimal. I'm a minimalist, but it's not that. It's just that the less overwhelm, whether it's sight, sound, we're going to have a thing about senses in a minute, but whether it's sights or sounds or touches or smells or whatever that would be, if you can just do less, it really is more.
The other thing too, I could, piggybacking on that is if you do have table ornaments, decorations, again, I agree with you, you don't need 12 things on a small space, but if the person that you're caring for has something special, even if it's a year-round thing, you might consider keeping that. And
Absolutely.
so that is, that person knows that their things are important to them, and then they can still look at that perhaps as a sense of comfort when things do start getting noisy, and they can a picture frame or a picture of, again, incorporating that with your holiday design. It might, because again, they might look at all the noise and think, what, what's going on? And then they might see their picture or a picture or something, a favorite, I don't know, piece or whatever sitting on the table. So you might keep one or two or three or four pieces out that they enjoy 365 days a year.
Yeah, that familiar touch point, I think, is
Yep.
very, very important. You mentioned it too about the robe. Like you might just have a warm blanket or not tech. We're going to get to tech in a bit too,
Yep.
but trying to stay away from tech, but really just something comforting like slippers or something against the skin that is soothing and calming. That's the goal for that.
Yep.
So yeah, that stimulate the senses, right? In all of the training that I have had, one of the things that has stuck with me is that, particularly with Alzheimer's, the sensory parts of the brain, deep inside the brain, are the last to be affected by the disease. And so those familiar musical melodies, the different smells of, cookies baking or cinnamon or whatever, coffee is a big one of those stimulating senses. Those familiar items, blankets, pillows, picture frames, like you were saying. And then the food piece, that idea that you want to always, I was just listening to Nicole McGurin from the Massachusetts and New Hampshire Alzheimer's Association just did a talk this week, and she talked about how instead of bringing a plate of food to your loved one, try often to have them have a seat at the table with everybody else, have a seat at the table and becoming a part of the larger group, as opposed to, serving them on a separate table or whatever that might be. So
Right.
that inclusivity is really what we're looking for. If your loved one likes a particular genre of music, or it doesn't have to be that playlist for the whole event, but to throw in a few, we all like it when a few, great songs come on. And also the volume of the music too, like keeping it so that it's not too loud and it drowns out conversation. One of the tricks we used to use was when an event was winding down and we needed people to decide it was time for them to go home, we would pick a softer kind of instrumental music that kind of got everybody in a relaxed, mood. If you find that people are talking more loudly to be heard over others, then that can be very agitating and overwhelming. And so you may just want to be cognizant of that, or designate somebody to be cognizant of that, and just walk over, like a gentle hand on your shoulder, can you come help me, and whatever it might be, to notice. Now, if your loved one isn't showing any agitation or anxiety about that, then don't worry about it too much. But it's that idea that if you're noticing it, you want to, take care of it before something happens.
Right. And sometimes you can, again, like you said, if you're the hostess or the host and you're running around like crazy, asking a couple of folks that are familiar with the elder or with the person, you might say, if she starts looking like a deer in the headlight, let me know. Or, if she's getting louder and louder with the music, and, if you could just cue me in on that, always on the QT, because again, you just always want that person to have their dignity at all times as best you can. Not, oh, can you quiet down, Aunt Mabel over there? Nothing like that, of course.
Right.
So yeah.
And sometimes people need to like that education about that. They need to know that they don't live with them all the time. So
Correct.
they don't really know those ins and outs, those little nuances. Lights are another thing. That lighting I have in there, I know I put no. I was saying earlier, I prefer to say, like keeping a steady light, but avoiding those blinking lights or flashing lights. that might, be reminiscent of an emergency vehicle or something like that, that on and off, on and off. If it can be a steady light,
Mhm.
that seems to be less distracting.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read in an article was talking about, I think it was from AARP, when we talked earlier about avoid saying, remember when, do you remember? Because they often lead to frustration. Instead, this language that I really liked, the article was saying, this looks like the tree we had when we lived in, wherever we lived, Colorado, California, whatever. It's a memory, but it's expressed using different language that you're sort of conveying your own memory, but without saying, I remember when we lived in Colorado and we had a tree that looked like this. So you don't have to use the word. This smells like the latkes my grandmother used to make, or the spaghetti sauce, or whatever it has to be. That smell, that idea of smell, aroma, is a huge, huge factor in spontaneous memory. Like, it happens to us all the time. My mother mentioned it the other day that when I walk into her house and I smell garlic and oil, then I know I'm at my mother's house.
Takes you back. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just it's a deep, deep memory that is just really embedded in our brains, and taste sometimes too. I know that taste is a tricky one because we sometimes can lose our sense of taste. But
Correct.
even now I can taste a cookie and it will remind me of a cookie that my grandmother made when I was, 4 or something like that.
Yeah. And
But
along
that
those,
idea of saying, this sounds like the music that I used to listen to, or using your own memory as a springboard for conversation, but it doesn't require your loved one to remember something unless they bring it up.
right. Or I always loved the cookies my mother used to make, or I always, oh my God, I really enjoy that chocolate chip. Or I really enjoy the quiche, reminds me of when blah, blah, blah. Again, going on that same, don't you remember when? Or,
Yeah.
it sort of just, because it's hard for folks to get out of that, that dialogue. So it's understandable that people will make mistakes. But again, just the purpose of this video is just trying to offer folks pointers, takeaways, just maybe if you think of one thing that you take away, holidays might seem less stressful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you're exactly right. And, you know, we're sort of focusing this as if, excuse me, you were having an event at your home, but this holds true for visits that you might make. You might be going to someone's home. When you're going to someone's home, the dynamic does change because you have no control over absolutely anything. The environment, any of it, you don't have control. You only have control over your response to what's happening and your ability to help others. So if you're bringing your loved one to the home of other family members, you would do those same things. You would still plan very similarly to educate those people that are going to be hosting with a few tips. Couldn't you have we'll bring a blanket. Can you have a space where mom can sit for just a few minutes if she's getting overwhelmed?
Right. And if I
Also,
get up to leave the room, or if I have to get up to leave the room very quickly with mom, please know, that these are her cues. And as someone who takes care of her, these are her cues. So again, I want to make sure your party is your success. You've invited me and my loved one. So for me to do that, please understand. And like I said, a little conversation ahead of time or a little blip on an email. I think the more people, the more knowledge, the better the outcome, Oh yeah, that's right. She did say that when she sent that email, that kind of thing, the
yeah,
triggers.
right. And, I think too, in our ability to accept and decline invites, and also in our own planning, we really need to consider the time of day of our event. If you usually have an evening event, that goes from, 7 to 9, you might consider just sliding it up a bit. When you have someone in your home who has you've spent a really long time establishing a good evening routine. And you might think, oh, it's just one night and it's not going to make a difference. Well, unless you are similar to our sundowning, unless you are implementing, all right, 2 weeks before my party, I'm going to start playing a little music in the evening. There has to be a gradual integration if you don't want to create a startling kind of disruption, because you have worked hard trying to get that evening routine. Same for visiting. If you're visiting when your loved one or you are hungry or hangry or sleepy, it's hard. You're overcoming these natural cycles that holidays are not. They're very, very difficult to overcome. So be cognizant of when you're planning. We always found like sometimes open houses worked well. They're 1 to 3 in the afternoon. People stop by, they have a little something to drink. It's daylight. I know that the decorations may not look as nice, but that's really not what it's about at the end of the day. You're really trying to make the event be a welcoming, successful event for the people that you are inviting.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Stick closely to those established schedules, and adjust and adapt. It might, you'll know when it's time to leave, right? If the event is going into a time when your loved one's used to getting ready for bed, or you're used to helping them get ready for bed, then that'll be the natural time to leave. So,
right. If you see that they're shutting down, or if you see again that deer in the headlight look, if you're visiting, because like you said, you can't control what everyone else, another hostess's party. And that's why I think it's so important to communicate all of this up front. I'd love to go, can't wait to see you. Please understand that, again, my mom has some challenges and we may need to leave early. And, again, communication, I think, is very key in any kind of setup, holiday, any event throughout the year. So.
Agreed. So sometimes when we spend a lot of time planning, we forget to enjoy the moment and focusing on the present. Like, we recognize that this isn't like what we used to do 5 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, 10 years ago, when I was little, whatever that past event is going to be. It's really hard to replicate that. So focusing on what's happening right now, right in the moment, on the person that you're speaking to and not what's in the oven. Give that responsibility to someone else when you want to spend time with your loved one. And adjust, like we were saying, adjust and adapt as the event takes place. I think that real goal is to create joy, those joyful moments that you will remember until you can't remember them any longer.
Correct.
And a lot of people will sometimes say, well, I'm going through all this effort and they're really not going to remember it, but we don't know that. They may just lack the ability to verbalize that they remember. We don't know. And so defer on the side of they will, and that you've created a meaningful moment in the present time. Also giving yourself that grace, right? Give yourself the grace that you would give your best friend or your sibling or your child or anybody else who is responsible for planning a big event. You're never going to say to them, everything was great, but you burned the green bean casserole. So give yourself that grace. Let that gratitude of the moment preempt any of those worries or concerns that you might have. It's really, nobody is noticing. We were saying earlier about, the table. Nobody is noticing whether all the silverware is matching or the glasses are matching or the plates are, no one's noticing that. They're just noticing whether everyone is having fun and enjoying themselves and sharing that laughter, and other folks around you can share memories all day long. It's just that idea of looking to your loved one and saying, oh, Mom, but don't you remember? And I have to say, my mother does that to me all the time. And I just say to her, no, I do not remember. I do not remember. And
Yeah.
so if you can navigate that in a different way, with using different language, I think that it just creates a better outcome for everybody.
I think humor is important too. We use a ton of it here at the day program. And, again, if it's a relative you haven't seen in a while, we use a lot of, oh, hi, yeah, I'm Colleen. I have a lot more gray hair now, so you might not recognize me. Or, yes, I
Yeah.
put on 25 pounds, go ahead, say all you want. Like I said, using that sort of self-effacing humor can kind of lighten the mood a little bit and again alleviate the potential, the person with the challenges thinking, oh my God, I don't recognize her, how am I going to get through the rest of the night, by sort of lightening up that mood.
Right.
Yep, I live in Chelmsford and I'm the one who used to run around the place to, again, just little
Yeah.
things like that can offer that simple cue, but at the same time, keep it light, keep it funny, keep it jovial, keep it nice.
Humor is an excellent plan B.
Yep.
When something goes the way that you do not expect it to go, humor is probably one of the best ways to deal with it, because, if the punch bowl gets spilled on your white carpet, then
Yep.
make your punch be out of white grape juice or something. You know what I mean? But that
Yeah.
idea of recognize it, putting it in perspective and recognizing that it's something that can easily be fixed or cleaned up and that sort of thing. But with people, it's much more complicated.
Correct.
So that
Yep.
humor really does work when things are going in a direction that you might not have planned for or anticipating.
Yep.
So giving yourself that permission really quickly on the grace, just give yourself permission to do only what you can reasonably and safely manage. If you know you're going to be overwhelmed, think about all the people that we talked to in this last, 2 months of the year, or even 3 months, like counting January, who are overwhelmed with what has to be done.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't really all have to be done. You're really trying to just keep those relationships that you have strong and happy for as long as you possibly can. And if that includes a big, huge croquembouche, then so be it. All right. I wanted to throw this in. I put this technology slide in because I saw this little picture of the girl with her VR glasses, and I realized I had gone to a family, it was a memorial mass for my cousin, actually. And one of the things that they had that I really appreciated was that on their TV in their living room, they had a running slideshow of photographs of him. And I thought to myself, you know what? That's kind of a really nice idea to have, this idea that everybody who's maybe planning on attending, if it's a family gathering or a friend gathering, whatever it might be, maybe they could send you an image beforehand. You could put together a quick little slideshow with if you're a tech person. Some people are like, there's no way I can do that. That's fine. Maybe one of your grandchildren or one of your children is a really cool techie person, and they can put together a slideshow with a little bit of music and just have it playing. It could be playing on a tablet. It doesn't have to be on the television. It could be anywhere. But that visual familiarity, I think, like you were saying earlier, a photograph of someone, one of those electronic picture frames, maybe at the holiday, have everybody send a photo of them, whatever, something that they did during the year. It creates a very tangible kind of thread that that's kind of woven through the whole event that pulls it all together. And sometimes it's really, really nice. So
Along that line too, you could also, do the old fashioned thing and bring photo albums too.
yes.
Those, again, knowing the person who has these cognitive issues, what they might not work. They might just love to just do the old thing and sit and look at pictures from, again, monitoring their expressions to make sure that they're not conjuring up really bad memories. But again, it's another, kind of, oh, look at this. I found this do you remember this clown picture? Or do you remember, I remember this clown picture from years ago.
Right,
So you don't fall into that habit.
right, right.
So,
I think this was at my, ex birthday or whatever,
yeah,
providing a lot of the information, like, this looks like, it might not be right. Because if I say, oh, this looks like my Aunt Gloria, and my mother will say, oh, no, that's blah, right? So she's the one who's correcting me. I'm not doing it intentionally, but I just don't know who the person is, and she does. And
yeah,
so those kinds of situations where your loved one can really contribute, I think is a great idea. And photo albums are a lovely way to do that.
yeah.
Sometimes you can even embed like a small video, recording the voice of your loved one at these events, at these kinds of celebrations, and not just, of everybody, of your loved one, but all the family, of how they're interacting with the family. I can't underestimate how important that can be,
Mhm.
particularly if your loved one is experiencing a gradual or quick decline.
Right.
Capturing their voice and on film, like I say film, on video,
Video.
that you can share with your family, that you can upload to an album, that you can put into a frame. I guess it's just like, help me out, back in the day, like a slideshow, or those
Yeah.
film that used to go through I don't know what you call it, like a home movie
Yeah.
that you had put in with a reel, and I don't really know how all that works, but someone out there does. And
Yeah.
kind of
And
watching home
those
movies.
are coming back too. Sometimes it's sometimes you see that stuff out there, or you can find it on eBay or wherever. And
Yeah,
we have slides from ages ago, and it was just kind of fun to poke around and look at those slides in that,
yeah,
the special tray, and
yes, I remember. Yes, yeah,
project it. And, like I said,
perfect.
sometimes just the equipment itself can trigger good memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect opportunity to weave that into the celebration. Oftentimes we'll have family members who can't join us. So doing something like this, a Zoom chat or a video chat. I know a lot of the different, there's FaceTime, and a lot of the different phones and tablets have various methods of things that I used to see in the world of the future at Disneyland in the 1970s or whatever, now is a reality. And so incorporating that, if you have folks who couldn't join,
Mhm.
yeah, adjusting expectation. I'm just kind of running through the end here. The real goal is to just truly have fun
Yeah.
and make memories that on which you can draw
Mhm.
when you need to attain that kind of joy with your loved one that that they can't really do anymore.
Correct.
We rec
Capitalize on those moments, try to capture them so that the person, we had holidays a few weeks ago. These are some of the videos. Would you like to sit and look at them? Look at how ridiculous I looked. Again,
yeah,
just to sort of capturing those moments, and in some way that is relatable to the person with the dementia, or with the Alzheimer's or cognitive challenges. So,
all right, this is our last one. Again, accept help. So
yeah,
before, during, and after, share the work. That idea that someone can help you with the food prep. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to do all the food prep. You can get it all and have someone come prep it in your house. You could do a potluck. You can have other people come. Sometimes just having somebody come over and help you clean beforehand, clean your house. Even the decorating, that, they can help you put up whatever it is that you need to put up. Even letting another family member choose your music playlist, if you're going to have music at your event. solicit input from everybody. What's your favorite song at the holiday? And we will put together a playlist.
I love
Not you, but someone else that enjoys
Yeah.
doing that can play on a, you know, however it is that you play your music now. Collecting plates and glasses and, you know, things that people, you know, as they're enjoying themselves might just leave on a table or a floor. Keeping the sink clear, keeping control of pets and children. I mean, the list is endless, and it shouldn't necessarily be just your responsibility. So sharing that work with others, you might have been able to do it all, you know, 10 years ago, but things have changed. And so that adapting to that makes a big, big difference. The last thing you want to do when everybody leaves is say, I am glad that's over. You don't want that.
Pat on the back if you're able to. Self-care.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, maybe wait a day to clean up, you know, like to do all the vacuuming and whatever, or get a friend to come over and help. Kind of self-monitor, you know, during the event. Am I getting stressed out? Am I getting, you know, when you say to yourself, I need another glass of wine, then that's usually a little internal indicator to say, I need some help, or I'm, you know, feeling overwhelmed, or I might just like a glass of wine right now, but want it because you want to and savor it, as opposed to this is getting overwhelming for me. So
And I need it. Yeah. Want versus.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So thank you. I just want to thank everybody. I loved this little slide that just says, the pillow says, let's stay home.
Yeah. Easy peasy. Yeah.
Yes. So as Jill was saying, you know, we'll have this on the YouTube channel at the library. Our next event, I'm going to plug that really quick, is going to be on November 23rd at the library. So it is a live event. It is our first live memory cafe that we are going to be doing. It's going to be a make and take painted bookmark. And then we're going to be doing an art appreciation with some local art created that has been created by some local artists that we're going to talk a little bit about. And so I just want to thank the both of you. It's great. I'm so happy that you were able to make these caregiver education programs reality.
Yeah, I
Thank
also
you.
want to
Thank you for
say,
having me.
Jeannine, they are called slideshows, those old home movies.
Oh,
Yeah, those were great. But another idea is also all those photo albums that are also, you know, is a good way to bring, you know, people in to say, oh, look at this when we were here, or, you know, and other people could potentially bring those if you're having a gathering. So that's the like adding, you know, getting help from others situation.
And
absolutely.
even if they've been sitting in an attic
Yeah,
or they're yellowed, again, sometimes it's not the picture, but the whole, oh, the filmy stuff, you know, might conjure up, you know, memories of trying to slide the pictures in and that, you know, I do think there's a lot to be said for some of the old-fashioned stuff that we sometimes take for granted, but a person with memory issues might very well welcome it. So,
right.
yep.
And
Yeah.
that, you know, Polaroids are back, right? So you can,
Yeah.
all the kids like to use those. So that's an instant gratification kind of photo situation.
Yes, they are. My son has a Polaroid camera. And so when I last went out to see him, he sent me home with a little stack of Polaroids of us. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you so
Excellent.
much. I know that that November 23rd visit is listed on the website, on the Chelmsford Library website. Up at the corner, there's a little events tab. And when you click it and navigate to the 23rd of November, you'll see the link to register for that. So we know how many folks are coming. We know how much supplies to get and that sort of thing. So, and we are starting to expand over to the CCA. We're hoping in Chelmsford to have some memory cafes at the CCA. So we are starting to plan, and we're looking at even programming into next year already. So we're really, really hoping that this Thrive program will thrive here in Chelmsford.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you both, and we'll look forward to having more people participate.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Happy holidays to all.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Colleen
All
and
right.
Jill.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
I know.